In Jane's Addiction, I think it's safe to say that you were almost single-handedly responsible for changing the sound in rock music as it's heard today.
I'm glad somebody said it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Who's some of your early influences?
I would say Jimi Hendrix, huge influence. Jimmy Page, you know, the dinosaur rock guitar players that everybody seems to hail. I guess I focus on those guys because they dealt with the technique end of things as well as the sound and the sonic quality end of things, whereas Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix weren't just ripping all the time. You know, they had a lot of soul, and they had a lot of feel, and they complemented their music in a brilliant way. And sometimes it was with the use of sound rather than skill. And that's one of the things I really admired about those guys. When I got a little bit older, I focused in on guitar players like Daniel Ash from Bauhaus and Love and Rockets, Robert Smith from The Cure. Same thing, except no technique. Those guys focus on sound and simplicity. So I tried to make my playing like a well-rounded combination of the two styles, which would be a little bit of technique and a little bit of sound and simplicity.
Taking Hendrix as an example, as a rhythm player, what did you show, like how you draw from his style? Clean?
How do I draw from his style? Well, you know, usually I just steal. So it's not much of a you know, of an influence, more of a source of places to steal from, I guess. You know, I really enjoy how he will be playing a rhythm and like throwing licks in there at the same time, and it's kind of free-form sounding. And I don't know, I think the song that we have called Shallow Be Thy Game would be kind of a mock Hendrix rip-off type of a thing, where it's a lot of the, excuse me, it's a lot of that E9, is that what it's called? E9? Mm-hmm. That Hendrix, I guess, in my mind, is famous for using a lot of. And, you know, I just basically took a riff around that chord, which is all in E, which is... And, yeah, like that.
Great, so your starting point sort of is, like you said, the E9 at the 7th fret?
That's what it's all revolving around, but the start of the riff is just a bend off on the, I guess, the low E string. Mm-hmm. I was always confused. Is this the low E string? Because it's higher.
It's higher, yeah.
It's higher on the neck.
Hold the guitar the other way. Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. Okay, so on the low E string, it was just a little pull off there. Back to that E. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like
yeah, straight across the
12th fret. It's not really a bar. It's not really a full bar. It's more focusing on the those three strings there. I don't know what that would be. Is that the second string? Second, third, and fourth?
Yeah, we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 today.
Okay, so that's what that is. And a lot of the muted strings in between. Kind of that voodoo child vibe thing.
Yeah, it's so much more interesting just instead of just hanging out on that E9 for
right.
like what a lot of other players
right.
might do.
And, you know, I had to think more in terms of what Flea was playing, you know, which I wanted to leave some space because he's such a fascinating and rhythmic bass player that, you know, everything he does deserves to have its place, and I would hate to come and piss all over his bass lines. You know, I mean, there's a part of me that would love to sit there and just go... But, you know, I would step all over everybody, which is not what I try to accomplish.
So you're thinking leaving space or filling in holes in the...
I'm not so much thinking that as much as I'm thinking about complementing an existing riff. And that song started with the bass line. And I wanted to play something that was complementary, yet different, but the two together would create a third entity, which became the bulk of the song. And so, you know, it's because there are times when no holes are better, you know, no space is better. It depends on like what it is you're to get across.
And I noticed you're playing this with a dirty setting. And what dictates to you, you know, clean or dirty or in between?
What dictates that is usually, once again, like the feeling that I'm trying to get across. If I'm trying to get like an aggressive feeling across, I will usually always tend to go to a dirty sound. If I'm trying to get like that rockin', thumpin' aggression out, I will pretty much go with the dirty sound and work from there. Sometimes I'll roll the volume back a little bit. If it'll be full up, I'll roll it back a little bit. And it'll be like less aggressive without going completely clean.
Right.
Which sometimes I find I don't get enough aggression out of. But other times, you know, hitting completely clean can be aggressive too. It really depends on what the rest of your bandmates are doing and what it is you're trying to get out of it and what kind of feeling you're trying to put into it.
The riff, the droning riff you were doing
at the intro, that was the intro to Warped. You want?
Yeah, I'd like to see you kind of break that apart a little bit.
Okay, that one is. I'm using some effects on that. I don't know if you got camera angle to do this, but I'm stepping on a Boss digital delay and a Boss super chorus. I find that the individual pedals are a little bit more accessible for me. And I'm droning the E string, the low E. I'm leaving it open completely. And I'm doing most of my movement on the A string, starting at the octave of the low E. And kind of getting a little rhythm happening here. And I found that I can basically move myself anywhere on the neck on that A string and have it work. Even if I go to the wrong note, if I go there by accident, I can make that work by putting more feeling into it and possibly repeating it. One of the things that I found about accidents and mistakes is that if you go to the wrong note, play it a couple times and it sounds like you meant to do that. So if this note, for instance, was the wrong one, and that way I just repeat it and make it sound more dissonant.
Yeah, and you made it work that time.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's how the song Warped starts out, with that little riff. And at a certain point, we all come crashing in like banshees.
Are you thinking melody when you come up with something like that, or is it really experimental? Where am I now? I'm going to make this work now.
And I'm not necessarily thinking about melody per se. I'm thinking of a specific framework that I want to stay in, which is the droning, kind of repetitive, dissident sound. But in terms of what I play, I pretty much focus on how it is I feel. So I might get more dissident if I feel a little bit more up in the head. But if I'm feeling non-creative and, you know, really uninteresting, I might play something that's just, I don't know, mediocre, I suppose. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that it's more of an improvisation rather than like a specific part.
I see.
And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I like to put those two effects on because it creates a more spacey dimension. And when the rest of the band comes crashing in, it's even more drastic of a change, rather than like being completely clean.
Because when the band comes in,
when the band comes in, I play that riff. So it's. And which I'll focus on that in a second, but the point I'm making is that with the spaciness, you know, starting off with the song, when the band comes in, it's more of an attack, a drastic change, and the effect, the desired effect was to have it like make your heart skip a beat a little bit the first time you heard it. But now that riff, if you're interested, is dirty sound. I'm all the way up on the guitar, and it's very simple. It's just this low E and the octave on the A string that we talked about earlier, like a little modulation on that A string. And I'm muting a little bit with this hand, but not too much, not like a, because that would be too much. It's just kind of got to be a subtle resting on the bridge here. So I don't get that extra ringing that muddies things up, which would be... Because then there would be no, you wouldn't hear the notes entirely well.
You mentioned several times now octaves. It seems to be a part of your style.
Yeah, it's a saving grace, if you will. There are two types of octaves that I utilize in my playing. One would be simply finding a scale that I'm staying in for soloing, which would, normally for me, it's this scale. What is that called, do you know?
The minor pentatonic scale.
When I'm in the minor pentatonic scale, I usually don't stray too much from it, primarily because when I was learning how to play guitar, that's the only scale I was actually taught.
Seems to be the first one we're all taught.
We're all taught that one, and there's so many different places you can go in that scale. But for instance, if I'm playing this one, I'm in the A. I find myself in the key of A. Sometimes to kick into a different gear when I'm soloing, I will simply go an octave higher, up here in that same scale. And sometimes, you know, you get yourself, you're soloing and you get a little bit lost and you want to kick into another flavor. What I do is I just go either all the way up or all the way down an octave, and creates the illusion of changing gears. Such as in a situation, excuse me. By the way, get yourself a guitar tech who will not allow this to happen. Which is the sticky wah-wah pedal circumstance. That's Mr. Dave Lee over there. He's responsible for this pedal not working. We'll see him in a moment. Anyway, like I was saying, what I'm doing there, excuse me, thanks Dave, is basically playing what I know out of that scale and moving it up an octave. And like I said, that's good for shifting gears. The other types of octaves that I like to use a lot is where I'm playing two notes at the same time on the neck, which is, I guess, another Hendrix-esque thing that I've stolen, which is found in the song Third Stone from the Sun, I believe, where it's... and I use that a lot in my soloing, too. And what that is, it's... I guess you're using two strings and kind of muting the one in the middle there. Not playing it. But sometimes if you play it, it's good too. So it really depends on what you want to get. But usually, I'm not playing the middle string, and which is a nice thing for soloing when you're playing. And I've also been known to use that as parts, rhythm parts for songs, whereas in Warped, which we were talking about, the song that goes, there's the chorus in that song goes, and I go into the
yeah, it's almost like half solo, half rhythm.
Yeah, and the two notes really fatten it up a little bit, you know, and it creates another flavor.
Watching you play, your left-hand muting comes into play on a lot of your rhythm style. Until the end of that passage you just played, you know, a chordal lick. Yeah.
That kind of stuff? Right.
So it's a lot of what you don't play, what you don't allow being played.
Right, for that exact same thing, if I wasn't doing some type of muting, it would be... Which actually sounds great, doesn't it? No, but it's important to, all joking aside, it's important to get that muting technique down, which for me is basically lifting up, not actually pushing down on the strings, but just resting your hand on the strings to create that muted sound.
So when you first started playing, many years ago I'm sure, did you practice or just kind of learn songs or practice scales or?
When I first got going, I got an old guitar at a garage sale, and I took some lessons. And the teacher I had basically taught me the chords down here, the D, F, C, G, A, E, and taught me whatever songs she could teach me surrounding those chords. But I was initially, like I said, I was initially interested in playing the guitar because of Jimi Hendrix. I was at a skate park and I was doing some skateboarding, and I looked up and the PA was playing some Jimi Hendrix, and I was like, wow, that's what I want to do. I guess the way to remain fluid on the instrument is just by simply playing it. But I don't necessarily strive to sit for hours and get better and faster and stronger so much as today I look more within myself to see how I'm feeling, to see what it is I'm trying to accomplish on the guitar. But I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I hadn't practiced tons when I was a child. Virtually had no friends.
Locked up in your bedroom.
Yeah, I almost had no parents as a result of it too. Drove them crazy. As you should too. Drive your parents crazy with this.
So how do you warm up for a show?
I usually get out of bed and I wake up and I take one of these, which is a Zovirax tablet. And they're very good. If some of you out there may have picked up some kind of STD along the way, some sexually transmitted disease, it's kind of par for the course if you're going to be a guitar player. I should start off by saying that. And if you'll excuse me, I'll pop one of those. It's more of a preventative than anything. And then after that, I'll pick up my instrument and I'll basically play whatever comes to me. I'll start with these chords, you know, the typical G, C, Ds down at the end there.
Nice and slow.
Nice and slow, and just kind of, you know, get the instrument in your hands and feel the beauty of the wood. I don't really think that way, but it sounds good. And then, you know, start playing some bar chords. It doesn't really matter where, it doesn't matter where you go. Just kind of familiarizing my hands with the neck. And then I will go into single note stuff. And I usually will start by simply doing what I guess is somewhat of a scale.
It's almost a chromatic scale.
Almost. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I'm basically just playing 4 frets on every string, just to get my hands kind of going. I'll also take a break and I'll bend out my fingers a little bit, get the joints kind of working again, because what I don't recommend is that you crack your knuckles, because I do that, and it affects how I play. I've been doing that since I was a kid, so I kind of loosen them up. I've also found that if my hands are very cold, it's difficult for me to play, so sometimes I'll run them under hot water if it's before a performance and we're able to cold backstage, get them kind of working a little bit better. And then from there, once I've kind of got, you know, the guitar back, you know, in my hands, I'll just start playing as fast as I can, even if it sounds terrible. With getting this hand going, you know, just like... And I'm not like a fast player, so I don't hit every note, and I don't play it cleanly, and I don't play it perfectly, but, you know, it's just a warm-up.
We were talking about octaves earlier.
Right. I did say there were 2 kinds of octaves that I go with. The truth is there are 3. And the third type would be an octave pedal, which the one I have here is made by Boss again. That's the only pedal I go with. You know, on the road, want something reliable and dependable, I use the Boss pedal. And contact LGM management to send free samples of new stuff. So anyway, there's the octave pedal, and what it basically does is it takes the note you're playing and duplicates it either an octave below or an octave higher. And I use it an octave below because it gets a kind of a thick rumble chordal sound. And you know, basically you can play rhythmic sounding stuff with the octave pedal on and just use one note. Whereas there's a song that we cover called Red Hot Mama. It's a Parliament Funkadelic tune. And the riff is... even with the muting still. And sometimes when we're getting a little bit aggressive, I'll pop on that octave pedal. And it's just a cool sounding thing, and I use it in a guitar solo for the song Shallow Be Thy Game. And it just kind of adds like a thick ugliness that I really enjoy. And in the solo, it sounds something like this.
Thick.
Thick. And ugly. That's the desired effect of that one, you know?
Yeah, another thing I've found about the Boss pedals myself, they're easy to use. You see the dials right in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are. Dials are right there. It's clear as day.
What to do with those dials, though? That's the question.
Okay. There's a song, you're talking about Tearjerker, aren't you? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
What I like about these is I know it's on because little red light comes on. That's very important. And, you know, I know musicians, if you look at Flea's stuff over there, you probably can't get a good look at it. He's got lights and things. He doesn't know what any of that stuff means. At least I know what these lights mean. And if I see a red light, that means this pedal is on. So, for instance, in Tearjerker, the intro of Tearjerker, I have a digital delay on for my guitar sound. You can hear the repeats there. And I go with another digital delay that sits right next to it with the setting on the hold. So what I'll do is I'll play a note and then hit the hold button.
Oh.
You hear that?
Yeah.
It keeps going forever if I want. And then my guitar has the other delay on it. I don't know if this is making sense. It's 2 delays. And anyway...
And at this point, the other one is... its only function is holding that note.
One delay is only holding this note over and over again.
Right.
And the other delay is on the guitar.
For what you're going to play now.
And then I play over it. And that's what the intro to Tearjerker is.
Well, it sounds like a sitar type.
That's the desired effect. And then what I do while that is going, turn it down a little bit, is I play the bulk of the song on top of it. Take it off. You know, I'm not necessarily trying to teach you to play that song, but you know, it's a neat effect, you know, to be able to play with yourself, so to speak.
Was that something you found by accident one day, or?
I guess so. Most of the stuff that I like to do, I found by accident. You know, it comes from mistakes. It comes from sitting around at home and being a little bit bored of just what the guitar and the amp does, and trying to tweak knobs and trying to come up with a cool sound. And yeah, I guess you could say it was by mistake.
On a certain part of that song you just played, I think it was B minor, maybe. Right, you were doing some. You lifted your fingers off and created some tone.
Yeah, that's something I like to do when I'm playing with chords, especially in the clean sound. I keep my hands in the same position. For instance, are you familiar with the song Airplane?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
One of my favorites.
So the intro of that song is, I guess, a C bar chord, right? Is that the C bar?
There you go.
Okay, that's the C. I'm not like a technical guy, so you have to bear with me. And I start with the suspension. Yeah, what I think you were talking about is the movement within the chord itself. You know, the suspension is obviously the addition of the pinky on the second string here.
Right.
But more importantly than that, I experiment as I'm playing. Sometimes I'll lift the whole. I guess what is the part of the chord? I guess I'll lift off and have it open. And then just experiment around in there.
So you're almost keeping the foundation of the chord in place.
Exactly.
And playing sort of scale ideas around it.
Yeah, it's more scaly.
You're not thinking
and
scale. You're just
it's picking and scales and you know, just different. It's a different way to play the chord. And like, for instance, in the beginning of Airplane, usually when we play it live, I play it differently. You know, and there's subtle differences every time I play it because I'm just always...
Could you play a little bit of it?
The beginning of Airplane?
Really enhances the next section change that you threw off your.
Yeah, it's kind of it's similar to what we discussed in Warped, where it's an intro that's primarily unrelated with the remainder of the song, and it lays a nice groundwork so that the bulk of the song can kick in, and I guess it almost sounds more exciting than if it wasn't there because there's something to compare it to. You know, another song I get asked about frequently, which is one of the simplest songs I've ever had the pleasure of working on, was Jane Says, from the Jane's Addiction days, which is a very easy song to play. It's G chord and the A chord, basically over and over again. And with a twist on the A, there's a pull-off thing, if you will. Start with the G, the A, and then, I don't know what strings these are, third and fourth?
Yeah.
So that's the whole song. A little mute there. You know, a little mute. It's very simple.
But again, you're adding to that simple basic chord with a couple of colored notes.
That's to keep it from sounding like Over the Hills and Far Away. See, it becomes something else.
Good thinking.
Speaking of simple chords, like we just were with Jane Says, another song from the Jane's Addiction days that I get asked about is Ocean Size. There's a little introduction to the song which was done on acoustic guitar. And that's another situation where the intro is like this little mellow piece and then the song crashes in.
Right.
I guess I like being in bands that have that. But what that is E chord down here at the bottom of the neck. Move it up 4, 4 frets and keep the same formation. Let the high strings ring, and I just do a little modulation with the picking here. Down a half step. Again. Strumming back up to the top.
That's a specific pattern you have in your right hand picking on that.
Right, it's starting with the 5th string.
Right, and then just move the chord and keep the same right hand.
Right, and you know, like I said, simplicity sometimes works the best. The rhythm for that song, when it does crash in, is, I'll play it clean and then distorted, so clean so you can understand what it is. It's just a simple E chord. The 2nd chord is the top 2 strings that you would play on a G chord. That being the chord, the G chord, just focus on these 2.
So, in our case today, the bottom 2.
Simple. Ends up sounding like this. You know, very simple, aggressive sound, aggressively played. It works.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of that same power as Mountain Song.
Mountain Song is another one. It's all rooted in E. The song is played in the key of E. What I call this a short form. I forgot what you would call it. It's basically this barred E chord, but just focusing on these top 2 strings.
Right, so the root and the 5th.
So it's a 5th there, and that is slid up and down the neck as such. The low E is kind of a kicker there. Go to the D chord for the change. Suspended. And then we use the octaves we talked about. What I do there is I use the octaves, and then when I go back to the D the 2nd time, I let the A ring open, so you actually get like a polyharmony happening where you're getting this feel, but you're still playing. So it's almost like 2 parts that fit together. So. Excuse me. That's how that one goes.
Did you play that in its entirety now? Yeah. Speaking of Jane's Addiction, could you play Been Caught Stealing?
Sure. I'll play it as it sounds on the record, then I'll pick it apart for you. It's a dirty sound, and it's a little bit more of a funky, kind of muted strumming style on it, and it's... That's the general rhythm of it. I'll go clean so you can hear exactly what I'm playing. I guess the song is in the key of G. What I'm playing here is a short form of G, which incorporates these 3 strings. I hope you have a close-up here. And the only change to that is that. So we're really working with simply picking off the pinky there, and the rest of it's in the strumming. And what I guess I also do is I lift these 2 fingers off. So there's actually 3 parts to it, 3 formations, and little muting.
Lots of muting.
Lots of muting there, and you know, it ends up sounding. And
you get a lot of use out of, I've noticed, out of taking a bar chord, you know, in your bar with your first finger, then just simply lifting off and coming up with something else.
yeah, that's. There's always so many different places to go in the same, with the same formation, so to speak. So if I'm in the bar chord here, I lift off everything else and just keep the bar, and I got. I'm never really moving this finger off, and basically that's all I'm trying to show is that you can go anywhere you want and invent little chords and subchords and melodies within the same structure.
Do you find yourself holding your pick a different way when you go into the funky rhythms where you have to mute a lot? As opposed to single note lines?
I probably shifted a little bit, but that's just to be comfortable with it. The idea is to get it to a place where you're not really thinking about it. So whatever really works, I don't think that there's any right way to do it.
Do you grip it hard or loosely? Or?
I'm kind of a loose gripping pick player. I don't know if you can see, but on the amp back here behind you, on the Peach cabinet, there are some picks taped along the front of it because I drop them all the time. So when I'm playing and I drop a pick,
there's proof, right?
And I'm not holding on to it, I can just grab another one.
How do you hold the pick, or how do you do that? The real fast picking on one string.
Well, I've seen it done a number of ways. I've seen guys move their whole hands, like you were talking about earlier off camera. They get their arms all stiff, and I can't do that really well. I actually can't do it my way very well either. But what I do is I just kind of, you know, do this little motion.
Oh, so it's more actually in your thumb and your finger.
Between my thumb and finger. You know, but I think it's, you know, it probably depends on what you're comfortable with. I was never taught how to do it, and like in my early years of listening to records, I was trying to emulate other players. I couldn't see what they were doing, I could only hear what they were doing, and to me it sounded like it was all in there.
Could you show a riff where you actually have to play like a funky chord thing and then go into a single note line?
Sure. I do it more in like rhythmic senses rather than soloing senses because even though I can play a note like that, I find that I don't feel good about it when I'm doing it, you know, so I don't really play solos that way, but there's a song called Coffee Shop where I kind of incorporate that picking style in the rhythm, which goes like this. And what that is I'm playing these 2 strings of the E, just the kind of the root of it, and keeping that going the whole time. And I'm muting the E down here, so just get the stabs So when you don't hear those strings, I'm muting them. When I go to the G, which is the change in that one, instead of going, I kind of hammer on from the E string to the G. And that's what the bass is doing, and sometimes I double it. Just a simple pull off on the D string, a hammer on the A string, and then open D, G on the E string, and then open E.
You obviously can pick very fast, but I've noticed a lot of players who can tend to just play that way and stay away from hammer-ons and pull-offs, but you have a good mix of all those techniques.
Yeah, I like the sound of hammer-ons and pull-offs. Sometimes a pull-off like that sounds better to me than it's just, you know, it's a little bit more subtle, a little less abrasive sounding. You know what I mean? Sometimes it works to go, but other times it sounds good to go. It just kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish in the song, and I guess what feels best. You know, that's most important. You know, I would rather play something that feels good to play it, rather than like play something that feels awkward. And you know, I guess that would eventually make the song sound awkward.
Lots of different ways to play the same thing.
Yeah, there really is. There really is. Now that is all the kind of different things that we've talked about, you know, and I don't really play like that when it comes to like fitting into a song, I guess, anymore. But I think what I'm doing, and I've never really sat down to like pick it apart.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is a lot of hammering, like that. And in some cases, I'm not even using this hand at all. It's all pull-offs and hammers. I mean, of course, I would start the phrase off with a pick, but then I guess you can see that I'm not picking each note. I'm not going. And you know, it tends to make for sloppy sounding solos sometimes, depending on how it's played. But you know, I think I'm incorporating a little of the right hand leading, and then sometimes it takes a break and the left hand leads, and I think probably what I'm moving fastest is my left hand, whereas the right hand is kind of just there to help the left hand along.
I see. Sort of like more of like a blues approach, blues guitarist approach.
I suppose.
So when you're traveling around in the neck, you played, basically that was an E, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. You were in different spots of the neck. Like say when you get down, do you see, what are you thinking of to keep you in position of E when you're in that part of the neck? A chord? Oh, right.
I'm thinking of this chord. Right. I'm also thinking of what I intuitively know as the octaves. It's like an E scale within there, but actually that's the first time I've ever played that scale. I kind of have learned through trying things, probably from starting at this scale and straying from the scale, and finding notes that fit in with the root of E.
The same notes but in different spots in the neck. So Dave, when you're cooking pasta at home, what do you do to keep it from sticking?
I've always found that if you add a little bit of olive oil, maybe a tablespoon of olive oil into the boiling water, it prevents the the pastas from sticking together. And it just makes for nice, it's a cleaner situation. And I'm glad you asked that, because another favorite of mine is the EBO. And the EBO looks like this. It's an odd little device that is...
What is that?
This, you can buy these at the Pleasure Chest down on Santa Monica Boulevard. I'm joking. You can buy these in a music store. And what it is, I'm not sure how it works. I think with magnets, there's a little battery in here. Turns on, a little light comes on. Remember how I like the lights? And it rests on 2 of the strings on the neck and vibrates continually the middle string. So, for instance, if I rest it there, it's vibrating that string.
It's like a violin.
Right, like a violin. And that's one of the things that I picked up from some of my English influences, English guitar players like Daniel Ash. He's a big EBO man. And I like to use it with different effects, like the digital delay again, which is, you know, a favorite. The old faulty crybaby pedal, which never fails. Actually, it's easier to do when you're standing up. So I retract the blame that earlier I placed on my guitar tech. And it's basically just keeping the string going, and I can move my hand anywhere on the neck on that particular string, and it will continually play that note as long as I like. And I'm getting those different effects by what I'm doing with the wah-wah. This particular device is featured on the song One Big Mob. I knew there was a one in there, so we have a lot of songs with the word one in them. What can I do? And there's a breakdown, and in the breakdown, instead of playing traditional solo guitar, I broke this thing out and a couple of effects and played around with it. And I think there are 2 tracks of it, in fact, and it just added another dimension, another flavor, tucked it back in the mix, so it was kind of hard to tell exactly what it was, and it just kind of created an eerie tone throughout the song. I love these.
You seem to be getting all the sounds I would think you would want to get out of this guitar. Is this your favorite one? Or?
This one is my favorite one. It happened by accident. I had another Fender Strat, custom shop Strat, that I preferred, and it broke, not by destructive forces. I think I dropped it or something, and the body shattered. So this was my number 2 guitar, and it replaced the number 1 guitar, but as it turns out, I enjoyed this guitar much more. I just kind of never gave it the time of day. And now it's just beautiful. And it's complete with, you know, it's like stuff which makes it have like some life, and that pick guard's off there so you can make noise with that, you know. You know, you need the plate to be off this, you know, so you can get to those springs, because it can make some really terrible sounds. This is a guitar which I am the first to admit is probably one of the most hideous guitars I've ever seen. However, it sounds beautiful. Not when you do that, but when you play it, it sounds nice.
Sparkles, man.
Yeah, it's got a nice little sparkle to it, like you say, and there's a song we have called My Friends, and it was recorded on an acoustic guitar, and I used this song, this guitar rather, live to mimic an acoustic guitar. choruses live. It's kind of nice. It's kind of a nice combination between an acoustic sounding guitar and an electric guitar. I don't need the plug for this. This is the guitar that I played in the studio for the solo of Walkabout. Walkabout is a funky little number that the rhythm is with the wah-wah pedal. And for the guitar solo, I wanted something really ugly sounding, and we were talking about clean and dirty effects and sounds earlier. Well, this guitar isn't intended for studio record recording, I don't think. And although it does have a jack, what I did is cranked it up all the way. I had a mic right here in this little speaker. There's a speaker built inside the guitar. And it just sounds kind of bad. But bad in a good way. And I think what I did that day is I turned it on and I left it leaning up against the wall for about an hour and a half, so the batteries were kind of going, and it made it sound even crustier and more ugly. I played this guitar for the majority of the Jane's Addiction years, and it's just got a really great sound to it. It's really thick and really crunchy. It's a little bit too heavy sometimes, so I only use it on particular songs like One Big Mob, for instance, where I really want just like that.
Very chunky.
Yeah, it's very chunky sounding, and for some of the funkier songs, I don't go with it just because it's almost too much guitar. But what I do like about this is that it's got many different sounds to it. And you know, I think that's important to select a guitar that you can get a rainbow of sound out of.
So with all the effects we were talking about, how do you, do you have to actually push each one off and go to the next one? Do you have a special pedal board?
I do have a pedal board. I have a slew of different effects here, different pedals, and I have my wah-wah pedal on this board, and I also have my channel shifting from clean to dirty built into this board. I also have a little tuner there, and that's basically all I need for a live setting.
And what kind of amps do you use?
Right behind us here, we have the JCM 900 series made by Marshall. And what I like about these amps is that they have a dirty channel and a clean channel built into them, which just by the flick of a foot switch, you can have one or the other. I think that I actually run 2 heads, is that correct, Dave? I go through 2 heads, and I think one head controls the upper 2 cabinets, and the other head controls the bottom 2. Mm-hmm. And it has something to do with low end. Dave, what does it have to do with?
Well, Mr. Navarro, the way we've got it set up is we've got one head running the top cabinets and one head running the bottom cabinets, with the signal split to go to each head. So therefore, we can control the actual volume and tone of the top and bottom rather than side by side, so that we can control through the stage resonance more so, and the cabinets pointing at your face instead of being separated side by side.
Yeah, so I have the low end coming through the bottom, and I have the not so low ending sounding guitars coming through the top.
I guess nowadays you could say this is a simple setup, but you sort of get full sonic spectrum.
Yeah, I like to have it so everything's like out on the floor and accessible, you know, because a lot of times I'll go down to the actual pedal and manipulate it during a performance.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, such as this this delay that I was showing you guys earlier with the hold button on it. I can set that to infinite repeats like that. It just continually goes, and I can move the time so it goes faster or slower. And it's just kind of a cool sound. kind of unearthly, and you know, there's really no technical aspect to that. It's just, it is what it is, and
you'll actually get on the floor and do that.
I'll get on the floor and do that, you know, and
Right.
I actually utilize that at the end of the song Coffee Shop. There's a delay pedal manipulation thing happening there.
Do you have a certain regimen for songwriting or a process you go through?
Songwriting is something that there's really no one way to do it for me. I know some songwriters that have formulas and specific approaches, but what we do as a band was we focus a lot on the jamming aspect and just being fluid with one another and playing a lot together, and song ideas will come out of moments, little pieces of jam sessions that we'll have. Other song ideas will come out of a guitar riff. Other song ideas will come out of a bass riff, and in one instance, there's a song called Evil that actually didn't appear on our record that came from a drum pattern that Chad was playing. And in fact, the breakdown section in One Big Mob came from a drum pattern that Chad was playing. And other songs come from even vocal ideas that Anthony comes up with. And I think that that's important, to be open to any influence when it comes to songwriting, because that way you cover a much broader spectrum.
So Dave, in closing, have anything you want to say to your hungry fans and newcomers?
I would just say to stay true to yourself as an artist and as a musician, and play what you feel. You know, if you feel angry, play something angry, and if you feel a little sad, a little melancholy, play something that reflects that. I would suggest that you don't try and focus on what people are doing around you and try and emulate that. But be aware of what's going on around you, and if you can, lift ideas and create your own through those ideas. And I would say spend a lot of time on your instrument, you know, would be the main thing. I've said it before, and I will say it again, instructional home video is not the way to go. But I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for letting us come down today.
Appreciate it.